Will do. Thanks. Sorry.
No problem. Have a good evening.
This is such a great example of A, it takes a village, and B, how people just are accommodating around COVID. So thanks, everybody.
Right,
I'm going to declare open the meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission of the Village of New Paltz, meeting on November 16th via Zoom with a live stream on YouTube. We're starting at 7:06 p.m. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Our first item of business is to consider the approval of the October and revised September minutes. Valerie, if you have those.
I am putting October up now.
And we can entertain any recommendations for changes. Does anyone have a recommendation?
I move the minutes be accepted, although Val said she had a change.
In the September ones, we'll
that's
look
in
at
the
that
September.
next.
We're going to have a second look at those.
I move the October minutes be accepted.
I second.
Seconded by Camilla. Chris, I wanted to let you know at the moment, Pat is not in the meeting, so you have full voting rights until such time as she comes back, and then we have to demote you again.
Okay.
Sorry, that's just how the rules are written. All those in favor of accepting the October minutes as written?
Aye.
Aye.
And Chris has a vote. Okay, so that's 5 approved. Thank you so much, Val.
You're welcome.
And then
For September, let me just scroll down to the top of the second page. The change here came from Susan Stesson-Cohn. I had the wrong great-grandfather, I believe, of Joan Miller. She's a descendant of Richard Oliver, not of Jacob Wynkoop. So that's the one change. Otherwise, it's as you approved last month.
okay. Can we entertain a motion to accept that amendment?
I move we accept it.
Moved by Sue, seconded by Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Val, thank you for fixing that.
You're welcome.
So both approved. We are very close to our public hearing time. I think, Kara and Steve, I think we really should wait till 7:15 to do things the right way. Sorry to hang you up for a few more minutes, but that's, if it's advertised as 7:15, we need to stick with that. Bill, could we skip forward to your report in the interim? We have you down for an update on the Ann Oliver House project and the African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund.
On the house, the Broadhead House, still with the attorneys. We've been sort of pushing our attorney as well as the Stewart's attorneys to sort of wrap this up, and we're just not quite there yet. We did hear today from Stewart's saying that their construction of their new facility, their new location is going to be delayed. They hoped to have it open by the end of the year. But it looks like it's going to be spring, and the holdup is mostly due to technical things in terms of temperatures and pouring concrete and materials. So that's it. There's really not much to report on the Broadhead House at this time, other than it's still with the attorneys. The other thing I wanted to mention is this Wednesday night at 7 is a public hearing for the short-term rental law that we're proposing to the public. So if you have any interest in home sharing and short-term rentals, as many people do in the community, I would urge all to attend the meeting as best you can. This is something we've been kicking around for a couple of years now, and we have a draft law that we're presenting, and it impacts in many ways how we view our communities, how we view our neighborhoods, and the future of those neighborhoods. So if you can attend, please do. What was the other item?
African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund related to the Oliver House.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that.
Just to clarify, I think you got that notice from Josephine Bloodgood at HHS and shared it with Bill or maybe Tim. I don't know if the village board has had any conversation about it, however.
We haven't, no.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yep. I'm sorry, Bill. That's really not something that you have shared yet.
Right.
Okay. Yep. Bill, I had just a couple of quick questions. So the RFP's language is complete pending approval by the two legal teams or just the village legal team?
Both.
Okay. Okay. I asked because we received a query this week and I was surprised because I didn't think we had publicly released it, and I guess we haven't, but maybe some earlier version circulated.
Well, there was an announcement via social media, I believe that Tim did via Facebook, broadly stating what the plans were,
Okay.
but not an RFP.
Okay, got it. Good.
But that, it's essentially the same thing. But we're putting the word out that we're interested in people wanting to take the house on, or organizations willing to take the house on.
Yep. Okay, good. My other question had to do with, I wish I remembered this, but what is the status quo on Huguenot Street regarding short-term rentals?
What is the status quo? I mean, can people do short-term rentals on Huguenot Street? Yes, they can.
Can they? I thought that there was a total prohibition.
No, not that I'm aware. No, I'm sorry. No.
We had worked very hard to get that in place. So we'll have to make sure, we'll have to go back and double check on that.
Yeah, please do. I'm unaware of that. Huguenot Street is off bounds for short-term rentals.
Okay.
I know that there was a discussion some years back, and I thought that was where we landed, but
Yeah.
How far back?
3 years, maybe.
3-4 years.
Yeah.
Maybe. That sounds like it's ringing no bell with me as a discussion of that. But
Okay.
I feel better about my confusion.
I'm confused because this is the first I've heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to check with Tim on that.
Val, could you make a note that maybe Sue or I or you can follow up?
Or I can also check the code because it may very well be updated.
Yeah.
Now that you mention, I do remember some discussion of it, but I don't know if it actually went through or not.
Well, it was my understanding that it did.
Do you find it in our code?
I'm
If it's not in our code, it hasn't been adopted.
Hmm.
I'll see if I can find it while
Yeah,
we're
we can circle back to
chatting.
that. But it would sort of bear on the discussion November 18th, wouldn't it? Well, Bill, thank you very much. We have a notation for other. Was there any other item you wanted to report forward?
That was just my opportunity for that. It wasn't necessarily anything in mind.
Okay. Everybody, I think we can circle back now to HPC 2010. This is an application from Kara Lee and Steve Stan at 135 Huguenot Street to install a total of 4 split unit air conditioning heat pump units. Kara and Steve, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And maybe I'll just editorialize and say congratulations that local law 1 passed and did so well. I'm very personally pleased that the community saw that effort for what it was. and look forward to seeing it implemented.
Thank you. Well, we're already starting to work on that.
Great. Wonderful. So
And
to
thank
the,
you. I just want to say thank you to the commission for supporting it and writing a letter to the paper about it. That was great.
well, we were happy to do it. And I know that when I saw our letter next to letters from other people I would consider community leaders, I was glad to be in their company. So really hats off to you, Kara, and to the committee for pushing it through.
Thanks.
Yeah. I hope everybody's familiar with the application and has had a chance to do a site visit, is familiar with what we're looking at. Karen, Steve, do you want to just run through the project really quickly, almost for the record more than anything
Sure.
else?
I'll do that. We're taking advantage of a state program that provides very healthy rebates for installing heat exchangers. And we're interested in doing it, of course, because we have a oil burning furnace and we're trying to move away from fossil fuel use. So heat exchangers are a good way to do that. So we had RICOR come and look at our house and suggest where it would make most sense to put them, given our space indoors and outdoors. And we're going to install 4. One is at the back of the house and will be under the deck, so it won't be visible at all. This particular picture that we're looking at with the little red arrow is where one of the outdoor units would go. And it's kind of a corner next to our front porch that has vegetation in front of it. And I think will be almost invisible, very modestly visible. And when we spoke to RICOR, we stressed that we were looking to place the outdoor units to minimize any visual impact. And these are the locations we came up with, and that's the first one. The second one, which would take care of our living room, which is in the front of the house, is next to the chimney there. And again, I'm not sure how clear it is from the picture, but there's a rhododendron there that would be kind of in front of it. So again, there's quite a bit of vegetation throughout 3 seasons that would pretty well screen that one. Maybe the most visible one is here on the south side of the house. And it would be underneath our other utilities. And what I tried to show with the second photograph is that it's kind of downslope from the front of the house, which helps, I think, reduce the visibility. And it's next to our garage door. So I think, again, there's vegetation through 3 seasons that really blocks it almost entirely. But it'll be a little bit visible. And then you can see in this picture that it would sit below the level of the shingles. It would be, at the level of the masonry part of the house. So those are the 3 locations, and there won't be any visible outside cables or conduits. We planned it so that they will all be invisible.
There may be some going up the walls. To the
Right.
second floor.
No.
Okay.
We planned it so that they won't be visible on the outside.
Okay, that's great. Commissioners, any questions about the details of the installation?
I think it's appropriate and sensible, and the locations seem very good. And I say that as both a commissioner and as a neighbor.
Yeah.
Right.
No, we didn't ask you, Steve, about visibility from your house because your house is pretty far away. But we did talk to our neighbor who's on the other side of the house, which is much closer, and they're very supportive of it, as well as the people across the street.
Okay. Great. Any other questions or comments?
I
Camilla?
just would like to add that Riker seems to be pretty aware of Huguenot Street, and usually they try to cite any outdoor units in the most inconspicuous way. So I have no issue at all. I'm sure they will do a great job this time around as well. And I just have a question. They are going to be the mini split units, right? Because the picture you provided, I think those are a bit larger than what you will actually end up with. Is that correct?
You know, I'm not 100% sure. And in looking, they had many pictures online of the different units, and I selected one that I thought might be the right size, but I'm really not sure. Their proposal does not refer to them as mini splits. So I don't know the answer to that.
Thank you.
Kara, does the proposal identify them by BTU?
Yes, they're 18,000 BTU, and they refer to it as a hyperheat heat pump.
Okay. So I'm guessing, Camilla, that 18,000 is going to be maybe 4 to 6 inches taller than what we often see around, which is 12,000, I think is the other norm. We actually have one from Rycor that stands about 18 to 20 inches tall, and I think 18,000 probably adds a couple of inches. I'm with Steve that I think this is appropriate and definitely has energy efficiency and freedom from fossil sources on its side. I guess my only question would be, you know, if it turns out that the visibility is a little more than what we're hoping for, are you willing to consider some screening in the future? You know, this would be a question for the springtime probably.
I would say that definitely yes to additional vegetation. I wouldn't want to build something around it
No,
because
I
I
meant
think
vegetation.
yeah, vegetation would be fine.
Yeah. Okay. I think to me, that's the only question. You know, sometimes you just don't really know until the thing's in place. Yeah. We did have a supportive comment on this from a member of the public. Valerie, do you have that?
I do. I'll see if I can read it because it's kind of small, but I should also say that Dina is on the chat now. She was just asking for repeating who was used to help this design and whether it was Rycor. I responded yes. Is there any more information I can provide to her in terms of design or guidance?
They were the only ones we talked to.
Okay, let me just switch to her comment.
Yep,
I will-
that's nice and visible.
Yeah, I know it was kind of a screenshot, but I will do my best to read it. This is from Dina Du Bois, who owns the house at 65 Huguenot Street. She has reviewed the application and taken note of the 4 positions of the exterior condensers for the energy efficient heat exchangers in the application by Lee and Stan. Because of climate change, it's important to, I'm having to, hold on a second. I have to move my, your faces. Important to provide heat efficiently. I know Huguenot Street has special status due to being a National Historic Landmark district. How to balance preservation needs with climate change needs is important. We want to preserve the climate too. The residents, by hiding the exchangers behind vegetation have displayed concern for that balance. Maybe perhaps additional evergreen plantings could be added if the ones there don't suffice for all 4 seasons. She mentions that her house at 65 Huguenot Street, she may in the future want to add the same kind of heat exchange to her furnace and would therefore also need an exterior condenser. So
Yep.
that's the extent or the gist of the comments.
Great, thanks.
Let me just check chat again and be sure.
Yeah, Dina, if you're following.
Dina has an additional question asking about the New York State rebate. What was the name of that?
I don't know the name of it, but it's a fairly new rebate program that RICOR can explain to her if she's interested, but it basically covers about half the cost of the installation. Of the whole
Okay,
thing. Yeah.
thank you.
That's great. Commissioners, do we have any other discussion or questions?
No, I think it's a great idea.
Great, thanks. Chris, any comment?
I was just say same, and it was nice speaking with you earlier on my site visit.
Yes, it was a very happy, lucky coincidence that you happened to be driving by.
Yeah, I was like, I definitely want to introduce myself because I was like smiling and staring at your house. So, but yeah, no, I think like obviously, it's in the direction that everyone needs to be pretty much going. So
Yeah, I think we'll see, to Dina's point, we're going to see more and more, which is why I think it might be good for us to consider some advanced guidance for people. I mean, Karen, and this is what we want really, is just to think about the screening and not necessarily go with the obvious or cheapest way to install. I just received a text in the affirmative from Pat, who's in favor as well. So I think we can perhaps entertain a motion to approve the application as submitted with the potential follow-on that maybe next spring there would be additional vegetation if necessary.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Cook. Steve, you come up as Mr. Cook, by the way.
A second.
Seconded by Camilla. All right. Chris, I'm afraid you have to sit on your hands on this one because Pat's back in the meeting. All those in favor, commissioners? Just let me know by text. Aye.
Aye.
And Pat votes aye as well. So that's approved. Karen, Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great, that's
Yeah.
great. Well, we're prepared now to move right ahead.
Great.
I
Wonderful.
will be in touch with the building department tonight to let them know we approved this. I'll copy you on it.
Okay, great.
And then you can be in touch with them about the permit.
Yep, I plan to drop it off to them tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, great. We'll look forward to seeing the results.
All right,
Okay.
Thanks.
thanks a lot.
Thank you
Thanks,
both.
everybody, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you for thanking us.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Val.
You're welcome. See you soon.
Okay.
Tom,
Sure.
Bill did in the chat box point out that there is a restriction on short-term rentals, which is I found it in the code, so it is indeed for historic districts. It is prohibited.
Okay, good. You did find it in the code?
I did.
Okay. I just saw Bill's message. Steve, if you have the chance to send the code, maybe later in the meeting, we could just look at that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
maybe put it in the chat if you could, Steve.
Sure.
Copy and paste the link at least to that page.
Okay. Yes.
That would be great. And then maybe we can screen share. Why don't I go through other business B? And I think much of this is pretty much just information sharing. So I think everybody's aware that the October 24th event went quite well. We actually had nice weather. for it. It was recorded. It was broadcast, at least. I don't know if it was also recorded.
It was live streamed and recorded on YouTube.
Great. And produced a positive meditation by one of our local citizens. Carol wrote a blog piece on it. So that came off quite well, I think. Chris, any thoughts? At this point, I'm sure landscaping is a spring project, right?
Yeah, I think that is gonna probably have to wait till the spring. And but, oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
My God, I'm having a weird. But yeah, I think it's gonna have to wait till spring. I just because now it's getting to be a little too cold, and I never heard back from HHS, so I should probably I can reach out again. But I never heard back from them the first time or second time either that I can recall. So I'll circle back on that. But now it's too late in the season, so we're gonna have to wait till spring. But
Well,
what'd you say?
I was just going to say the positive side is that there's plenty of time now to really build toward something.
Yeah, exactly. And I know Susan was kind of saying that it might not even be necessary, so I don't really know where everyone's on that. But I want to see what where Historic Huguenot Street is at, because we can't really move forward without them, or at least at AJ Williams-Meyer's recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, good. Thank you, Chris.
yeah, of course.
Let's see, 1B, Pennsylvania inquiry regarding archaeology and ground penetrating radar. So I have been in touch, Valerie and I have been in touch with Professor John Rayburn and Professor Joe Diamond up at the campus. They are willing to apply this technology to sites that we would designate. There's a bit of a technical problem in that the ground has to be very dry, which probably is not going to happen until late spring at this point. So here too, we've got plenty of time to try to get our ducks in order. I'm still not 100% clear on what sites we would be considering, exactly, like where do we point the machine. But I'm in contact with Susan and we're getting closer to that. And then the next step would be to talk to property owners and to obtain permission, which in and itself is not an uncomplicated question, as you can imagine. So this is a pretty long-term thing, but the technology works and has been used, as we saw at the last meeting. So, you know, I'm optimistic that at some point we have their willingness to participate, and at some point we will have a list of possible sites, and maybe we can find out something. I think the other thing is Susan corroborated what I believe Josephine Bloodgood said, that it's very unlikely that the Pencil Hill site was a burial ground because of the soil composition and some other factors. So I'm not sure that that's really a live possibility, but there are others in the village and in the town that could be researched. I don't think I have anything else under research or other updates. Valerie, am I forgetting?
No, I don't think you're forgetting anything.
Okay. So, you know, that general initiative presses forward. The code revisions, B2, I had a communication with a resident on Elting Avenue who certainly seemed to express some disappointment that there wasn't more that the HPC could do about the project at 58 Elting. I explained how we're limited and why we're limited, and also explained that this points again to why we should be pushing forward with some kind of architectural review. And I think, at least in the case of residents on Elting, they would like to see that as well. So I will really try in the next month to push that forward and get back on the village agenda for considering a slightly different approach to this. I'm really sorry that the semester has just been so difficult for me that anything that doesn't have to be done this week or next week hasn't gotten done. But things should start to ease up in a couple of weeks. Number 3, we've already sort of alluded to. I'm just very pleased that Local Law 1 was approved, and by a really significant margin. And I think the voters of New Paltz sent a pretty good message on that. Any questions or comments on 1 through 3 before I hand things over to Camilla? Okay. Camilla, please.
Well, I don't have anything new to report since the last meeting. I sent everyone, before our last meeting, I've sent everyone a copy of the press release that contains everyone's input. And
Just put it on the screen, Camilla.
thank you. So it's pretty much ready to go to press. The only thing I would add is that since all the pictures have been uploaded to our Dropbox, I'm not sure if Zach was able to do anything in regard to the village website. So if the pictures are up there, then we can include the link to the village website as well. But I'm not sure about the status of Zach's project.
Maybe we can follow up with Zach after the meeting and see.
Yeah, let's make that an agenda item, Val, if you would, please. We have a potentially very long indoor winter coming our way, so this might be perfect timing for that. Camilla, thanks very much. Be nice to think that we can have a live show next year, but we certainly won't know that for.
Yeah, we will have to see.
Yeah. Sue, any report from Huguenot Street?
Nothing that I have. Nope. I don't have anything new.
Okay. I have one little detail, which is we now have the new owner's name and address for 181 Huguenot Street. And I was thinking that it might be wise for the commission to proactively introduce ourselves, explain the situation on Huguenot Street and the necessity for certificate of appropriateness applications. I'll be glad to write that letter. Is there anyone who objects to that approach? Okay. So I will take care of that, and I'll copy everybody when the letter's complete. I think we might even want to send it certified so that we're sure that it's received.
That's a good idea.
Camilla, any reports from the online conference?
Yes. But first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to attend the conference. It was very interesting, very informative, and I will compile a text that I will send to everyone, because there were a lot of presentations that I have attended, and some of them are already available to review again on the conference website, so I can take more detailed notes in the future. But there seemed to be a reckoning going on in the preservation community, how to increase the relevance of preservation, how to be more inclusive, how to even maybe change the name of preservation maybe moving away from historic preservation and going towards heritage conservancy, like that's how they, in many European countries, that's what they are really calling it instead of historic preservation. And especially because of the events of the last few months, that name historic preservation has become a bit pejorative. So there were suggestions that the name should be changed. And of course, we have to be very sensitive about history and not just look at buildings separately from history and just look at architectural details or architectural significance, but to include the whole history and so this is something that the movement is struggling with. It seems many communities have been thinking about ways to be more up to date and more relevant, and also the inclusion of natural resources, not just the built-in environment, but the natural environment as well, and approach preservation as a combination of the two. If you look at Native American culture, for example, many of their most sacred sites are related to the natural environment and not necessarily a built-in structure. So it's also important to look at the environment from this standpoint, but also because it's very important for people these days to preserve parklands, farmlands, green belts, rare species, all kinds of things that our local law number 1 was designed to preserve. So there is definitely a movement in the preservation world to move towards the natural environment as well. And there are many interesting aspects of preservation, how to include women, for example, how to engage indigenous communities, people of color. So that there has been a lot of information and a lot of very thought-provoking presentations. I will try to make very detailed notes again and just share it with everyone.
That would be absolutely great, Camilla.
Sure.
As you were describing that, I was thinking, how something like the Ann Oliver House is sort of both at once. Architecturally doesn't necessarily rise to a particularly high standard, but taken as part of an effort toward inclusivity, obviously does. And I think we're kind of a microcosm here in New Paltz for how preservation is being rethought. So that would be great, Camilla. And again, sounds like a pretty good winter project.
Definitely.
Yeah. Great, thanks. Number 7 includes places where we might have a role in planning board or ZBA decisions. And I have to say the larger context here is I'm really trying to make sure that the planning board and the HPC are working in as much harmony as possible. And, this brings us back to our attempts to revise the code so that kind of collaboration is a matter of code rather than personal initiative. But specifically, the project at 58 Elting was approved last month by the planning board. We've invited the applicant to come and present drawings and hear our suggestions and feedback. And so far that hasn't happened, maybe at our next meeting. But, the horse has sort of left the barn in some respects. So I don't know if we're going to continue to have any role there. I think because it's approved, it's now a matter of the volition of the applicant. I did provide some ideas for small lot house designs to the mayor, who I think was going to present those to Richard Steffens. So something happened, but not in any direct way. I just happened to have some sites where small lot plans are available, just to kind of open up possibilities that might be appropriate for Elting Avenue. But I know it's a disappointment to a lot of people on Elting Avenue that there just isn't anything for the HPC to do at the moment if the applicant is not willing to come forward or interested in coming forward early on. The PB 2007, I think, is just kind of in limbo at the moment. There is actually a pretty full file with the planning board, but I don't think there's been any movement. Let's see, I think it was only a few days ago that I checked with good heavens, I'm sorry, Alana, sorry, I just flaked, at the planning board, and she did not indicate that there was anything new on that application. But we should keep watching for developments and make sure that, as I said this week to the chair of the planning board, we're here to look at drawings or concepts at any point. PB 20 XX is the project at 85 North Chestnut. There are some developments there. So Roddy is going in front of the planning board tomorrow with the plan that Val just projected. And I think you can probably make out that it's the corner of Mulberry and North Chestnut. The plan is to demolish the garage, the repair garage, build closer to the street, very much like Zero Place, and to have resident parking on the side and on the back. And I am happy to project, if I can, I have one image that would help give a streetscape view of this if you want me to share it.
Let me stop sharing then and let you pick it up.
Okay. Let's see, I need to share my screen. This is so complicated because I'm 3 layers in. Okay, so I just need to, Val, do I have the right to share?
Well, you did last month, so.
Oh yeah, here we go. Yep. Okay.
Wow, they want to put in a mountain.
Yeah, won't that be nice on North Chestnut?
It would block noise. I think it would be quieter on Huguenot Street.
Yes, it would. You might have avalanches, Steve, but this is a little more like it. So I just happened to see Roddy today for my car, and I quickly saw on his phone about 10 or 12 elevations. This is the one that probably best represents a version of what you'd see from Main Street or from Chestnut. So I think we can see it's definitely in the idiom of Zero Place, and it also gestures toward the physiotherapy center between this and Village Pizza. I think that this is literally the first iteration of the drawings, so there's probably room for discussion. I was going to suggest that maybe our role would be specifically having me write to the planning board chair saying that we would like to have a role in this and would, welcome a system to report our observations and findings.
Please do.
Chris, go ahead.
So are those apartments on top, or?
Yeah.
Wow. Wait, okay. I'm gonna have to look at it or where this is.
Well, I think we also need more drawings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for one thing, there isn't grass on the other side of the road, so we need to start thinking about that. But I think it's of approximately the height. I think that he said he's not seeking a variance. Actually, now I'm wondering about that.
I recall that as well. I think that was in the documentation,
That there was no
that
variance.
there was no need for a variance.
Okay, so it won't be any taller than 0 Place, Chris.
Well,
Wow.
it's only 3 floors though. So 0 Place is 4 and this is 3 with you'd think it would be a little bit lower.
Yeah, I would think. But this is the sort of thing that the full package, which I believe is being presented tomorrow, should contain. He's working with the local architect, Kim Hoover from Gardner. So that I think is good news that she's nearby.
Wow. And then then at the bottom are commercial spaces, or
I believe that's right.
wow.
Is that a good wow or a bad wow, Chris?
I don't know.
Just in the details I read a little while ago, it was 1 commercial space and 2 apartments on the ground floor, and then the upper floors were all apartments.
Yeah,
So there
that's what I
is
remember too.
some component of commercial space there, and then ground floor apartments with upstairs.
Interesting. All right, cool.
I will seek to get the full package, which I don't think it hasn't been recorded yet, but I suspect will be soon after tomorrow's meeting.
I think what's in the pre-application folder does have that kind of descriptive narrative.
Yeah, I think you're right. May I take this away? Anybody want to see it any longer?
I actually do want to take a picture of it.
Sure. You want to take a screen grab?
Yeah, I took a picture. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so, I think realistically, there are 2 projects that we should be tracking pretty carefully. This is one, and the pit project is the other. I don't know if we're going to have a role in 58 Elting, honestly. But if we are asked, I think we absolutely should. Anybody have any questions about those? Is that generally agreed that reaching out to the planning board on this and the pit? Yep. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Partners for Preservation candidates Pat agrees as well, so I've got that. Let's save number 8 for just a little bit, and maybe we can blow through some of the faster things first. Are people available for December if it should be needed?
That's the 21st.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can we all just hold December 1st? At this point, I don't necessarily anticipate we would need it, but depending on how quickly things move with the planning board, we may want to meet about these 2 projects.
Sure.
That's great. Pat thinks she's available, so I think we'll have a quorum, if not quorum plus. Valerie, meeting schedule, public notice of the January change.
Yeah, let me show you the meeting schedule. It's the only thing that will be different is that I've added the submission dates. So this is what would get circulated among Village Hall folks and transferred in somewhat different format to the annual mailing. The one thing I wanted to mention for this is looking ahead to January 22. I went back to the fourth Monday tentatively, and I marked it as tentative. I don't know if we want to consider not including January in this going forward, just in case there will be adjustments to January and February again. I can go either way. What happens is if we do publish it, I have to put a notice in the paper of a change, and that's not really a problem.
Oh, I see. Okay. But Steve, you have a conflict the previous Monday, right?
The fourth Monday
The
is a
fourth
conflict
Mondays.
for me.
Oh, fourth Monday, that's right. When would we have to publish the meeting one way or another?
Well, I mean, I don't usually do separate publication of meeting dates unless there's a public hearing.
Okay.
And when I have to publish a change, if I do it 2 weeks beforehand, roughly 10 days to 2 weeks beforehand, that's usually sufficient. It's not a legal notice. It's really just a community notice in the paper. And because we have changed the upcoming January and February dates from fourth Mondays to second Mondays, I will do a notice like that probably around the middle of December.
Okay. I mean, if that's all it takes, why don't we publish the whole schedule as it stands now?
Okay.
So that would be January. I don't think I have my 2021 calendar. What are the January and February dates again, please?
January 11th and February 8th.
Got it. And then by March, we're back to third. For the rest of the year, it's all third Mondays. Okay.
Are you seeing this, my screen? Are you seeing the meeting schedule? Because
No.
I'm not seeing it on the YouTube screen.
No.
I'm seeing the agenda.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing on YouTube as well. So, but it says I'm screen sharing. So I'm not sure whether something happened in the transition from you to me, Tom. I don't know.
That's probably what happened. That I don't think is a big problem.
No, I mean, you'll see that. In fact, you have it with the meeting materials I sent out. So you already have a copy of what I'm showing anyway. Okay. Is that good with everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and publish those dates. Okay. Preliminary discussion of 2021 annual mailing. We usually do that in February or March.
Well, usually we try to get it out as close to the 1st of February as possible. So we usually start talking about it in November because we don't meet in December.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the situation we were last year where we kept the same format pending any change related to our charge, which was going to trigger a possible redesign of the brochure and probably some narrative change in the letter. But we aren't at that point yet. So I guess we could decide to just continue with the status quo for another year, or however long before we have some differences to communicate.
I think that's probably my advice is, we kicked that down to this year because we were hoping that we would have code revisions in place, but I don't see that that's going to happen before February 1st.
No. Okay, well then what I can do is take last year's mailing. I don't really think we have any significant updates beyond meeting dates. And I'll have that ready for you in January.
That's great. And then we can quickly turn it around and produce it.
You should be able to do that.
Good.
And the CLG annual report, I don't think we'll hear anything about for another couple of months either.
Yep, I certainly haven't heard anything. Okay. Discussion of 2021 goals. Let's just go around and off the top of people's heads, what do we want to accomplish next year?
I would like to see us really try to pursue the whole architectural review board challenge.
hmm I would concur with that, given that we've been at it for years. Chris?
I was gonna say that, and also maybe incorporate some of the things that Camilla had mentioned earlier about involving indigenous communities and you know, just branching out and kind of seeing how we can bring history like that to a spotlight and incorporate, you know, the natural surroundings to not just you know, designations of monuments or anything, or in I don't know.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that what you were talking about before, Camilla. So I'm interested to see your notes on that, because I think that that's something I'm definitely interested. But also the Architectural Review Board, because these projects here, like the pit and the, you know, those are big things that I do feel like we should, you know, be, I guess, on the pulse of.
I agree. Pat just texted. She also feels ARB, the Architectural Review Board, is priority for her. Camilla?
And also maybe we should be more a part of the whole planning process in the village, because it seems like the Preservation Commission is always the last stop.
Yeah.
And how do we be a part of the community, or how do we become more relevant if we are not even a part of any kind of planning projects? The HPC's role really, or the preservation community's role as a whole, and that's what nationwide the movement is going forward, trying to branch out and trying to have more influence, or more say, not necessarily influence, but just a part of the big picture. And
More part of the conversation.
Yes.
Camilla, going along with what you said, what you're saying, I absolutely agree. And also what you were saying before, should we think about changing our name? You know, I think that so many people just hear Historic Preservation Commission, and I'm so tired of hearing people tell me that we're just so impotent and we don't do anything. And maybe if we try to revamp our image and change our name, it might spark some more interest.
Yes, I agree, Sue. And I think it has been raised before at one of our meetings. Maybe you said so yourself, that maybe a name change is in order. I don't know what to change it to.
So many of these terms have loaded meanings now.
Right.
I also was feeling like maybe leading, you know, kind of changing the identity of this group and leading with architectural review,
right,
and leaving the heritage or the preservation part as kind of subordinate to the more, you know, workaday project of just architectural consistency or quality.
But then I don't want to be contrary, but then we put too much emphasis on architecture and not necessarily on history and culture, which we also would like to include more of, or designate properties that are not necessarily architecturally important, but historically and culturally.
Right.
So maybe that's why the Heritage Conservancy is a good good name or something
Yeah.
along those lines.
I don't think heritage is necessarily innocent either, though.
I
I
agree.
don't know how much conversation there was on the conference, but that's another term that's been appropriated in ways I don't necessarily want to fall into. But I'm hearing loud and clear that we need to think about identity and naming as part of moving forward. I agree. Steve, how about you?
Well, I think that for goals, I think it would certainly be good for us as a group to be more involved earlier. I mean, just Roddy at 85 North Chestnut to be getting drawings early, to be seeing what the initial plans are. We have all the more opportunity to influence them the earlier we are brought into the process. For 58 Elting, I mean, once it's approved by village planning, as you said, there's not so much that can be done. So, it makes us a better organization to seek out cooperation from other government entities to become involved earlier, to have the seat at the table. And it just gives us a chance to do more.
Agree. I wonder if this doesn't, in the next year, take the form of maybe either a liaison to the planning board or making that a rotating obligation of the commissioners, just to kind of stay on top of things, because we've tried different things, and most recently we've sort of fallen off the broadcast list, and then it gets forgotten and you have to kind of go recover. So maybe we should, at the January meeting, or if there's a December meeting, talk concretely about how that can happen. Because I agree, Steve, we should be in early. Anything else, anyone? And Pat, do you feel that those are good points? I'll just look for your text. I'll let you know when I hear from Pat. Oh yeah, absolutely, says Pat. So I think we've got a pretty good list or it's not even a long list, but it's a focus for 2021. Let's move on to 2 budget items, and then we'll circle back to Partners in Preservation.
If I can interrupt for just a sec, there is a bit of chat going on the YouTube live stream, and Misha Harnick is also saying try to aim for next year for more involvement with the planning board.
Okay, thanks. Let's make sure the record shows that. And thank you, Misha, for that comment. Was there anything from anybody else?
A little back and forth with Dina, but mostly about the application we were just looking at 85 North Chestnut. She had a couple of questions about the applicant's name and a little bit about the nature of the construction.
Okay, great. So budget item is renewal for the national organization that sends us the magazines. Is it 100 a year, Val?
Yes.
So I guess the question is, do we wish to expend $100 of our budget to keep in that membership? I'm seeing uncertainty.
No objection.
No objection. Okay. Yeah, I would prefer to stay with it. It is, but we have a budget for subscriptions, and this at least keeps us plugged in to the national conversation. Can we just take that as agreed?
Should we have a motion because it involves an expenditure?
I guess we probably should. Is there a motion to approve the $100 expense?
I move we approve the $100 expense just to
Okay.
continue the subscription.
Okay, second. Pat just seconded. Okay, all those in favor of that expense? Aye.
Aye. Oh wait, sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think Pat voted aye. So
Sorry.
It's good practice, Chris. Think of it as good practice.
I'm trying.
Valerie, do you have the numbers for the budget report?
Yes, this report was as of October 31st, which was 41.67% of the year completed. We have spent just over 28% of our budget.
Okay. And we just expended another 100, but that won't matter that much. So good. We're a model commission for budget restraint. Let's go back, everybody, to item 8, Partners in Preservation. Last month, we had talked in a very preliminary way about this little light of mine on North Front, and I think there was quite a lot of support for that. The Tibetan restaurant on Main that occupies the former cafe. Oh gosh, what was it called?
Cafeteria.
Cafeteria.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, Chris, you had suggested the house on John and Prospect with the beautiful gardens.
Yep.
Mark Eisenhandler's house. And I had suggested my neighbor's house because she redid her porch and put on a beautiful standing seam metal roof. Does anybody want to add to that list as we think about awards? Can we take that as our short list then and have a conversation? Oops, I think I may have just missed. Chris, do you want to speak more? You had brought up this little light initially.
Yeah. So so basically, it used to be Scarborough Fair, and so when they moved across the street, that place became vacant, and it was vacant for a little bit. And I don't know the owner of this little light of mine. I think someone might have mentioned it last meeting.
Yeah, Valerie, you've got that name.
Ingrid is her first name, and I'm not remembering her last name.
So I've spoken to her a bunch. She's so kind, and she used to have the place that is now an antique bookstore, I believe, behind Bacchus.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, is that her place?
So it used to be, and then
it used to be.
That's where she moved from.
Yeah, exactly. And so she moved across town, but it used to be painted blue, and it was pretty nice. It's a corner spot, so it's really like, I don't know. There's a lot of exposure on all sides, especially now because people coming from Huckleberry and Village Treasures and Verde. But she repainted it, and it just looks so gorgeous. And the shop too is just like a really so beautiful when you walk in, and I feel like it really opened up that street and kind of connected it to the rest, because North Front is like a little weird. Not a little weird, but it's just like an offshoot that a lot of people don't really know to go down. And I think that because of the color that she painted it and how nice she made it look, it makes people take that turn around what used to be Physique, and it's currently empty. But and then it opens up to, then there's Scarborough Fair, the bakery, Mexican Kitchen, and then us, selfishly, and then Los Jalapenos, Pegasus. So, and that's really where I'm pretty sure that when Huguenot, I don't know, I feel like I'm going to be I think when the town, right, came up through that way, like North.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of the first main street, as it were.
Yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
I didn't quite have the words there, but so thank you. But but so I feel like it just provides like you can see it from down the street now, and it really attracts people from all ends. You know, if you're going into Handmade and More, it's, you know, another shop over there, and then all of a sudden you see Scarborough Fair, and what else is down the street, and then all of a sudden you're at Huguenot Street. So I just think it really connected that. It's kind of like a connector between North Front, Church Street, and Chestnut as its own little neighborhood, I guess. And now moving even more towards that way with all the Zero Place expansion over there, it's like kind of, I don't know, just a great spot, a great person, and like a huge transformation over the past year.
And transformation is what we want to reward. That's kind of the spirit of this award.
And that's also why the house on
John?
corner of John and Prospect, because so Mustafa, who lives across the street, I believe, owns a painting business, just redid that and really transformed that house and gave it like a whole revitalization. And so I think between that and just the way that they tend their gardens over there is really something that I see people all the time. Like, cause I mean, I'm walking down that stretch of John Street all the time. And people at that stop sign will sit and stare I see people who are walking, stop, and they, you know, interact with the gardens kind of. I always touch some of the bulbs. I hope they don't get mad at me. So yeah, but those are why I support those two, and two that have recently had, you know, work done to them that really does make a difference. Difference. So, but residential and commercial.
I'm in favor of both nominations. I don't know how others feel.
Oh, I think those are really good choices.
I agree.
I agree.
Me too. Can I throw out one idea that literally occurred to me just as Chris was speaking? This would be kind of out of the box for this award, but what if we were to recognize stewards this year for the gift of the house?
For sure.
It's not exactly improving it yet, but it's making it possible for the next owner to do so. And, you know, I think they were just really good to work with. I mean, we may want to sit on that just to make sure the deal goes through and everything happens. Pat likes the idea. I'm getting text after text. You know, we really would have time to wait and see, or we could sort of approve that on, you know, contingent upon the deal going through legally. But I think it would be nice to recognize stewards. They didn't have to do anything. They could have bulldozed the house and been done with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a fine idea, Tom. Stewart's is community minded, and they're, you know, for all we know, they may come back with some gift to HPC or gift to New Paltz or something to, you know, they, you know, do something kind to them and they'll do something back.
Yeah, they have the capacity to do that.
Have the wherewithal. I mean, it's certainly not a motivation, but I mean, it's you know, your point is correct. They're doing some good things.
I would be very happy to give 3 awards. We can watch and see how the Tibetan restaurant does. And likewise, my neighbor is still doing projects, and I wouldn't insist that we move quickly on that. Sue, are you okay with the slate of those 3?
I think that sounds great. I think they're, yeah.
Camilla, same.
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay. Chris, okay. And Pat, just to confirm, are you comfortable, Pat, with 3 awards this year? Pat agrees. I've literally got 3 screens going. I'm being pulled into something I never wanted to be in. I feel like a stock trader or something with just screens. Anyway, thank you, Pat. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's a decision. I will formulate, usually what happens is I'll formulate a little line or two that describes the reason for the award. Chris, I may want to come back to you for some help on the first two.
Sure.
Or just have you approve the wording and then I'll send it out. And at that point, we can go ahead and reach out to the recipients. I think, you know, we could still try to do it at a village board meeting. That's maybe a nice gesture. Yeah, I mean, probably, why don't we try to do it at the first February meeting or the 2nd January meeting of the village board?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Steve, do you want to just share that link for the prohibition on short-term rentals?
It's in the chat box, sent at 7:30. There's the E-code 360 link.
Okay.
And also the actual text, short-term rentals shall be prohibited in the H Historic District.
Thanks. I'm going to grab that before we log off.
I also forwarded it to Dina, so I can resend it around too after the meeting. I'm not going to be able to show it on screen since my screen doesn't seem to be projecting.
That would be perfect. Yeah, I'm getting some weirdness too. But Steve, thank you very much. God, is it nice to have, and I saw you've also found the owner of Little Light of Mine, which I just wrote down. It's so nice to have a librarian among our midst. Answer man.
I've got some portable
Steve,
skills.
I have a different last name for her though. I just looked it up myself.
Oh,
yeah.
well, see, can't go by Google and newspaper stories.
Well, I mean, could have changed, I suppose, since this is, it goes back quite a ways from when she came to our commission meeting to look at her plans.
Oh, okay. I think I would probably go if Steve's stuff is current. Because we saw her about four years ago, maybe 3.
Not quite that long. I don't think.
Was it?
I don't think she's been there that long. Let me see if I can find a date. Yeah, it may have only been about a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was thinking, boy.
I have email from January 2020.
You know, I think, wow, is it only January? Wow. But her landlord is Corey, is that correct?
Yes.
So that's how I can double check. I will pursue that. Okay. Steve, was one of the sites their own website for the store?
I found a couple of news. Cindy Newpalt's publication, The Teller, refers to her as Ingrid Hines, and also the Hudson Valley One, but that's from 2019, so that's not an absolute that she hasn't changed her last name or goes by another name.
Okay. And the shop itself doesn't have a website that might?
There is a Facebook page, but it just says, it doesn't give, in the about, it just gives, you know, it does not give her name.
Okay. Well, that'll be
a Little Light Candle.
Okay. I will pursue that and get back to everyone. Meantime, I think it would be good to hold the December date that we talked about, December 21. And otherwise, is there any new business before we wrap up? Great. Before we wrap up, Camille, I'm just going to thank you in advance for those notes or that summary. I think everybody's really interested to hear what you discovered and what the national conversation is looking like.
I will try to write everything up as fast as I can. It's
Fast fast isn't important. Take your time. How about a motion to adjourn?
Excuse me, just one second. Dina wanted to let us know that she likes the idea of preserving, of an award for preserving place and people with gift from stewards of the Broadhead Avenue House.
Good.
So some public support there. Okay. I will write up some language and be back to everyone. Motion to adjourn?
I'm sorry, Tom. I think there were some questions from Ms. Bergman that.
Oh, yes. Did I skip over?
Oh my God, yeah. Actually, you know what? It's not on the agenda, but I did send that out.
Thank you, Camilla. So I did my best to respond to those yesterday, or I think yesterday. And really, I don't, most of them are from a time period that I just didn't know. And did you know any answers, Camilla?
Well, I think the HPC may not have even existed when the house was built.
No, it didn't. I know that for a fact.
We couldn't have said anything about that,
Yeah.
why it was allowed to build anything there. And the cemetery was kind of discovered 20 years ago when the HPC was established.
Right.
But I'm not sure if it was before or after.
Well, we just celebrated the 20th anniversary of the sign.
Yes.
So that would just about correspond to, it was just prior. The commission was formed in 2001.
Right.
Which actually there's something for next year. It's our 20th anniversary. And we should maybe make something of that.
It's a historic anniversary.
It is a historic anniversary, and maybe
There's your tag.
Time for a redefinition of how we fit into village planning. But Camilla, I didn't have any answers about why there was no excavation. I took my best guesses, but I basically just said Susan will know better, and she responded that she'd be glad to talk to Carol. So I think that's where things remain.
Because I think maybe there was some issue with the homeowner, perhaps not giving permission for.
Yeah, I mentioned that, only that I heard that. I don't even know that for a fact.
Right.
I'd heard that. Yeah. So I think that's under control. Basically, I responded as best I could and copied Susan, who then said she would fill Carol in.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? So motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Steve.
Second.
Seconded by Sue. Okay. All those in favor of adjournment? Okay. I suspect Pat will not resist us on that. She does not, so that's unanimous. Everyone, thank you so much. Have a very good Thanksgiving, whatever form it takes for you and your family or not your family. But I hope it's nice, and keep perspective on why it's going to be different from other Thanksgivings. We'll look for a full report on the kitchen, Sue.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, thanks very much, Steve.
Bye, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Bill, thanks
Good night,
a lot.
everybody.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thanks to all.
Bye.
Let's see.
Let me let Ari know that we have adjourned.
Yep, that would be great. Excuse me. I'm actually just going to try an experiment while we're talking. Marinelle's letting me test drive her headphones.
I'm sorry, are we still recording or?
I think we still are.
Ariana needs to shut off the YouTube live stream.
We can also just cancel the meet or close the meeting, and then I could send you a link for WebEx if you wanted.
Sure. Okay, then let me close it out now. And-
Camilla, can I do the same?
Sure, yes, thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
Cheers.
great.
talk soon then.
And you're okay with WebEx, Camilla?
I think so. We will
Okay.
see.
We'll see. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll send it out right now.
Okay.
Thank you.